So the Chicago Bulls have been at least fun since the trade deadline, and I truly have conflicting feelings about it as a Bulls fan, and I really want to talk to y'all about it. Yesterday, they basically played their best game of the entire season. They went into the Staples Center against the Lakers and just put on a clinic. Almost 150 points in regulation. We had our rookie Modest Buzella's career night, 31 points. Shout out to my guy. Josh Giddy is 2 steals away from the first quadruple double, and I don't know how long. Kobe White is on his typical March tear where he just goes out there and is dropping 30s on a nightly basis. It was perfect, great, exciting, fun basketball. But damn it, I'm conflicted about it, bro. I really, really am. And the reason for that is, okay, there are multiple ways to be a fan of a sports team, right? But I'm gonna make it very, very broad in general, right? There's 2 different pots, I'll say. Pot number 1 is the pot that I'm in. We are the NBA fans that know the CBA. We're the fans that recognize the long-term, broader view of the organization. You know, we're thinking about trades, we're thinking about free agency, we're thinking about drafting, we're thinking about the young core, we're thinking about all of the things, because at the end of the day, our goal in pot number 1 is to win an eventual championship or be in contention for multiple years. Here in Chicago, for 30 years ago, we were the pinnacle of what success looked like, and we ain't had none of that. So us in pot A recognize that even though this team is young and fun, and the young part is what people always forget, the broader view of this organization still isn't good. And pot B is like my dad. My dad on a nightly basis is asking how them Bulls looked. They looked good yesterday. Not thinking about the potential of losing the first overall pick. Not thinking about the overall upside of this team 2 years, 3 years down the line. They really only care about today. And I'm not saying one way is better than the other, because I do believe that both pots have to coexist to build a really good fan base. But sometimes when I dip my toe in pot number 2, it's immaculate. Watching Modest Buzella's put Luka Doncic in that spin cycle, I'm like, oh my goodness. Seeing them go into Crypto Staples Center and get a win is so dope when you're in pot number 2. But then reality hits and you look at pot 1, you say, damn it, we just lost another 3% chance to go get a top pick. I don't know. It's so conflicting. Right, pot A, we know all the ins and outs of the CBA, the second apron, and what that can mean for our team eventually. We recognize that Bam Adebayo just signed a $150 deal that kicks in 2 years, and ooh, that's a lot of money. Like, I think that more modern fans, I think the modern sports fan in general is just smarter now than it was 30 years ago, because we have every resource in the world. Damn it, we got 100 NBA podcasts, and some of them by NBA players, and they'll tell you straight up about their contract and stuff. So I feel like we're more smart now than we were 30 years ago, and the 30 years ago approach still is pretty damn cool sometimes. Because when I talk about the Bulls being fun and exciting, since the trade deadline, they are 10-12. They were a below average team, but they have had nights where it's just like when we were over the last 5 years, 3 years, 4 years or so. Remember when the Bulls were the 2 seed going into the All-Star break with Zoe and Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan? Like, those were fun times, don't get me wrong. But eventually, once we got to the playoffs and we lost in the first round, a lot of Bulls fans was like, we knew that this team didn't have a championship ceiling, so let's do something about it. Then. So since then, I haven't really had a lot of fun watching the Bulls, because I'm thinking about what is the long-term plan, what is the long-term future. So the fact that over the last 20 or so games we've been fun is pretty interesting stuff. One thing that gets lost when people think and talk about the Bulls is how young this team really is, especially since the trade deadline, man. Torrey Craig out, Zach LaVine out. The only above 30 guy on the team is Nikola Vucevic. Everybody else, specifically these rotation players of Modest who's starting, Josh Giddy who's starting, Patrick Williams is 23. But you know what I'm saying? Like, all of these dudes this is a really young team. So, Kenny, you have a young, fun team. What is there to really complain about? I think there's different levels of young and fun. Let's take a step back to last year when we saw a young, fun Orlando Magic team come onto the scene and end up being the 5 seed in their series, right? This is their current roster, but the core is relatively the same. The difference between what this team is doing, first of all, they won a lot more games, don't get me wrong, but there was higher upside to this team. where you feel like, yes, we're a young team that made the postseason, but we have a Paolo, we have a Franz, and both of these dudes' potential is out of this world. You know, some people look at Paolo Banchero and say one day that guy will be a top 10 player in this league. So they're young, fun, with a lot of long-term upside. When I look at my Chicago Bulls, we're young, fun, and not nearly the same level of upside. Josh Giddy has been playing out of his damn mind right now, but he ain't got the ceiling that Paolo Banchero does. He may not even have the ceiling that Franz Wagner has, right? The other guy you could look at is a potential all-star. We're talking about ceilings here. I think Josh Giddey's ceiling is an all-star. Will he ever get there? I don't know. But I think his ceiling, based on the way he has played, is an all-star caliber player. I think Kobe White also has a similar ceiling. We don't know if they're going to actualize that potential. And that's kind of it. 20-year-old Miles Muzelis has been phenomenal, so we don't know what his ceiling is because we're only talking about 60 games to his NBA career, but we don't have that higher ceiling. A young, fun, exciting, good team this year is the Detroit Pistons, and they have done all the right things from bringing in the vets like a Schroeder, a Tobias Harris, and Tim Hardaway Jr., but the engine of this team is a 23-year-old point guard who's probably going to be All-NBA this season. They have the high upside there, and the Bulls don't got that. And in my mind, you think about the high upside. Listen, the two teams that we just talked about, the high upside player in Paolo Banchero and Cade Cunningham, guess what? Both of them were first overall picks. Not rocket science, but this is a graph that I found talking about the NBA draft pick value. Everybody recognizes that the higher pick you have, the more likely you are to hit on that pick. Simply put, of course, there's always going to be the Giannis's that are outside the lottery or the Jokic's that could be a second-round pick. But the higher draft pick you have, the more likely you are to draft somebody that can change your franchise. And right now, the Bulls don't have a franchise-altering talent. And getting that franchise-altering talent is going to be really difficult if you're picking number 10. It's going to be really difficult if you're picking number 15. And right now, that is the crash course that the Bulls are on. Right now, we have the 10th best odds, which, again, anything can happen. If I ran this tankathon 5 times, I bet the Bulls jump at least once. Nope. 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 Dang. Nope. No, okay, so never mind. So that tells you how tough it will be for the Bulls to jump up here. But the scary thing about it all, because right now, if we ended the season and the Bulls had the 10th odds and we had a 3% odd that Cooper Flagg, 14% chance at Cooper Flagg, Ace Bailey, Ron Harper, and whoever might end up number 4, I'm okay with that, right? Earlier in the season, we were towards the 7 range, and I really like that idea. But damn it, top 10, I guess I'll settle for that. But the problem is, the Bulls are a play-in team. And right now, they're playing the second best basketball of all the playing team, right? Right now, the Miami Heat are on a 10-game skid, which is the longest losing streak they've had since before Eric Spoelstra was coaching this team. So if we went into that game, the Bulls are probably favored in that. Will they win? I don't know. You know, it's 1-game elimination. But the Bulls are going into that probably favored. And then they play against the loser of Magic versus Hawks. Right now, the Bulls are playing better basketball than the Orlando Magic. If the Bulls win 2 play-in games and end up going against the Cavs just to lose in 5 or just to lose in 4, I'm going to be so pissed because that means that they drop out of the lottery and they have a 0% chance to move up. They're going to have pick number 15. And drafting somebody great at pick number 15 is hard. So that's why I talk about being conflicted. Them being 10-12 since the trade deadline and actively on a 2-game streak and actively 7-3 in their last 10 could be so detrimental to the long term of this team. And that's just scary. The teams above them, almost every single one of them recognize what they're doing. They know what they're doing. The Wizards, the Jazz, the Hornets, the Pelicans, the Nets, the 76ers, the Raptors are doing this crazy form of tanking that we've never seen before. The top 7 teams are set. You're not budging. Those teams are bad and losing basketball games. We find ourselves in that middle range that's like, we don't really know. Because even a team right above us, the San Antonio Spurs, they may not be actively tanking, but their top 2 players are out for the rest of the season, and they won the lottery 2 years ago to get this freak of nature. So even they already have that staple, that franchise-altering player. So I'm conflicted because I tune in to watch them play, and it can be fun. It's exciting. Josh Giddey's throwing full-court dimes. Kobe White is using his size against smaller players, something I've been asking him to do forever. You're 6'5", Kobe. He's finally doing it, and it's so exciting to see. But when they win, I'm like, damn it, this could be awful for the franchise. And then the guys that are in charge, they come in and they say, we're not settling for mediocrity. I want to remind you what the word mediocrity means. A synonym of mediocrity is average. And them being 10 and 12 in the last 24 is about average. Right now, their advanced stats are that of a team that will win 40 games, which is average. 27 games left is what Tunis Karnišovas kept saying. After the trade deadline, we'll see what we have in this team. And what we have on this team is some competent, young, good players, but nobody that can change the franchise. So if you're not going to draft that guy that can change the franchise, are we about to start trading for play? Are we going to be in the Kevin Durant sweepstakes? What sense does that make? Are we going to go get Julius Randle? What sense does that make? So the only real way to make it happen for the Bulls is to draft well and draft high and hit a pick. And it's hard to do. I do believe we hit a home run with Midas Buzelis. I don't know if that home run means that he'll ever be an all-star or whatever, but the dude has the drive and the capabilities to be a long-term NBA player. And at pick number 11, believe it or not, can be kind of rare. So I'm conflicted. True dilemma. I got a lot of tweets yesterday like, yo, your Bulls look good. And I'm like, yeah, they do. I swear they do. But... And then you start thinking about the long-term thing. Like we mentioned, Josh Giddy is up for restricted free agency this year. He's played so well since we traded Zach LaVine that you have to really consider what type of contract he should be worth. And I think the worst part about it all is that like March basketball in the NBA is and a lot of times kind of fake. Teams in March, I read something that said, the first month of the season is more of an indication of how a team will perform in the postseason than the last month. So you talk about a team ending their season on a 7-8 game streak or winning 16 of their last 20 or whatever it may be. That's not a real indication that a team is good enough to win a championship, right? And I feel the same way about players. March basketball can be fluky, where a player is just hooping his butt off all March long. Remember, and this is not a shot because I really do like Jalen Green and he's a good basketball player. But remember last year, Jalen Green averaged 28 points in the month of March. A year before that, Kobe White, the March Madness killer, he averaged 26 points per game in March. Like, there are players that do that. So now you have to figure out, is what Josh Giddey doing right now sustainable? Do we think that he can average these type of numbers over the course of an NBA season? Same thing with like a guy like Denny Abdia who's playing in Portland. Like, there are good young players doing ridiculous stuff in March. And I think that because we weren't able to facilitate a Zach LaVine deal until February, we will just have a really small sample size to figure out, is this version of Josh Giddey the real version of him? Because the last 15 is incredible. 20, 8, and 9 will round up for you. 3 turnovers per. He's shooting an unsustainable 50% from 3 in this stretch. Getting to the line, hitting free throws. The true shooting is up by 10%. He has been ridiculous. Brian Windhorst reports that he'll probably get market value for starting point guards, and market value for starting point guards is anywhere between $25 to $30 million. And then you think about Kobe White being up, his contract being up at the end of next season. You have to decide, is Kobe White and Josh Giddey the backcourt of your now and of your future? And if it is, will it be worth paying them collectively $65 million annually? Is that smart for a franchise? I don't have the answers for this, but this is what we're trusting the top dudes to make the decision on, and they haven't done anything to get that trust from the fan base. Kobe White's last 15 is 26.5 points. Like I mentioned, his shooting is not looking great. He'll give you a burner, don't get me wrong. He can hit 6 to 8 threes in a game, but it really is him getting to the free throw line, using his size and finishing through contact. Against the Kings the other night, he had 4 and 1s in one half. The second half, he had 4 and 1s. Like, he's playing phenomenal basketball. And sometimes I wonder, if my job wasn't to do the sports thing and to follow all of these teams, if I would fall more into pot B, or pot number 2 is what we said, and how much that changes your outlook on sports. Bro, the most happy sports fans are from pot 2 because they don't have a care in the world other than wins and losses. And I envy that. I truly do envy that, because I won't have to sit here and overthink for 18 minutes about the Bulls winning a game against the Lakers. If you're in pot B, bro, I respect the hell out of you, bro. I respect you for being that carefree and just enjoying the basketball for what it is, just a game and a sport. But man, I can't get out of pot A. I just can't, bro. I can't. And let me do my Josh Giddey piece here. When we traded for Josh Giddy, I dropped 2 videos. I had the initial reaction, which is what we always do on this channel when it comes to trades. But because that trade had been on my mind for 24 hours straight, I dropped a second video after that, the Josh Giddy trade 24 hours later. In an initial video, I was explaining how I didn't like the trade. I didn't like the fact that the Bulls didn't get any draft capital, especially because they were offered draft capital in other trades and so on and so forth. And then Josh Giddy just wasn't good last year. Full stop. Gave you glimpses. He just wasn't good on any side of the ball. And then I didn't really look at his postseason stuff because he was a 21-year-old postseason player. I didn't look at that and say that's just who he is as a player, but I just didn't really like him. I think in that video, verbatim, I said Josh Giddy is a player that can't shoot, can't finish, and doesn't defend. Can't shoot, can't finish, doesn't defend. And this season, he's flipped at least a few of those things. And now, granted, we're talking about basically wide open looks, but it doesn't matter if they're wide open or not. Josh Giddy is hitting his 3-pointers. At what clip? Let me double check this real quick. Right now, he's hitting 38% of his threes on 4 attempts per game. That is really good. You'll take that when you think about the rest of what Josh Giddy brings to the floor. If he's going to be wide open and he shoots 38% from 3, you tip your cap. You know what I'm saying? I said he couldn't finish. And right now the finishing stats are not very good, but he does do a really good job of getting downhill and creating havoc that way. And I swear if he ever is able to just get a little bit stronger and finish through contact a little bit more, I think some of that can't finish thing will change. And the defense has been like, I wish there was a chart to show you how Josh Giddy has played throughout this season on the defensive side of the ball. Because earlier in it, he was dreadful. Again, I'm a guy that has watched every single Bulls game except for one. I've missed one Bulls game this season. And because Josh Giddy was a guy ready to get an extension or maybe get an extension, I have been a hawk watching him because I'm like, do I want my favorite team to pay this dude this amount of money? So when he first started off here with the Bulls, the defense was bad. It was, like really, really bad. Like I didn't expect him to be able to guard small guards because he is 6'7", 6'8", and with like slower guy. But you expect him to be able to guard people with similar physical physiques, right? He wasn't able to do that. He was terrible in space. He was terrible in help. He just overall was a cone. But now he still can guard smaller guys, and he does still struggle with guys that are similar size him but stronger. But I do believe his help defense has been better. And I've always been a guy that's like, if you're a cerebral offensive player, there's no reason in my mind that you can't be a smart defensive player. And I do believe we're starting to see Josh Giddy turn that corner where defensively, again, I don't trust him in space against a lot of players, but as a help defender or stationary defender, I think he's been doing a damn good job there. And in that second video, I reminded people that before his last season in OKC, ESPN did their 25 under 25, and Josh Giddy was number 18 on this list. Right, so that last year in OKC really tarnished a lot of his view across the league because in the playoffs he couldn't play, and it just overall was games where he couldn't play fourth quarters. He was sitting, and some of that translated over to the Bulls earlier in the season where he didn't play fourth quarters, but now you can't keep him off the floor. So just 2 years ago, he was looked at as the 18th best player, 25 under 25, and I truly do believe that when his list comes out again next season, that he'll be back in the top 25. Probably towards the bottom end of the top 25, but he'll be back in the top 25, which is pretty impressive. So shout out to Josh Giddy coming out to Chicago and just hooping. Like when they re-sign him, which I'm assuming that they're going to do, I won't have any complaints, I don't think. Unless the man is making $100 million a year, which I don't even think that's possible. So back to the original thing. The Bulls are fun. If you have not been watching them, tune into a Bulls game here or there. I just still don't know how to feel about it.